Hi everyone, Paul Lange here from Disciplined Trading Strategies with this week's Trade of the Week video. This is for the week ending 9/29/2019. This play was on AMAT. The date was 9/27. That was just Friday. It was a 60-minute major resistance DTS sell setup. It also had a little mini gap that kind of triggered it. Entry on a 1-minute major resistance DSS. And the management simple reward to risk 3.0 to 1. Management super simple because the trade did not last very long. I'll go into all the details of the trade in just a minute, kind of a fun one. First of all, the free stuff this week. A couple of things going on this week. Monday is the biweekly scanning night, and Thursday is the market and market letter review day. That was rescheduled from last week in case you saw that last week. Also, of course, seminar program members have things going on Wednesday and Friday as well, but this is the free stuff for those of you who are interested. If you're a member, you will get an invite in your email as always. Here is the daily chart of Amat, and there's kind of a long story with this one I want to go into, so it's going to be an extra minute long on this video probably. I had picked this daily and this hourly chart as a favorite for this morning of about 6 or 7 things before the morning and before I knew this was going to gap down a little bit. What had happened was this morning, MU did their earnings and said whatever, and they were gapping down a pretty good amount, and it dragged down a couple other stocks with it. It's called sister companies, residual effect. One stock has a problem, and it may bleed over into the other stocks in the same sector. So there's not any big secret. You just look at the chart pattern and see what it is, but a lot of times you'll find these sympathy gaps, they're often called too. So here's the daily chart, and I like that chart as it was, but this ends up gapping down to right there that day. Normally I'd like a little gap down like that, except this day I would have rather been in here shorting it right at the top because of this big resistance area that was there, one of my favorite things to do. So the gap kind of was a negative to me that I had to deal with because it causes some uncertainty. I'll show you in just a minute, but that's what the stock looked like after the day I traded it. And by the way, a little more than half of this red bar happened in 9 minutes, just FYI. That's why day trading can be interesting and fun. You can get an entire day's move in a few minutes. You can get an entire week's move in an entire day. Depends on the setup that you find and if you get the right entry. So here is the 15-minute chart. I had a little more detail in the 60, so I'm using the 15-minute chart here. And you can see right there is where the stock opened that day. It gapped down beneath that area up in there. Now again, if it didn't gap down, I would have loved to short it, just trying to test this top up in here. It's one of my favorite things. Now that it gapped down, I looked at it as kind of a negative because if it rallies back into this area, I love it. But if it just starts to drop, then I have a problem because I either have to kind of chase it, and I'm not sure if this high, this opening, will be the high of the day or not. So it causes a problem. The 15-minute chart is just there to give you some perspective on where things were with the prior days. That's what it ended up doing. It actually stayed kind of sideways the opening 15 minutes, as you can see. And then it dropped really hard, and of course you had to be there for it. And luckily I was on this one because it was a favorite from the beginning of the day. Here is the 5-minute chart that gives you a little better view of the fall and the entry. And then of course next I'll show you the 1-minute chart that gives you the exact entry, but that's where it opened. And the entry came right there. It was at 9:47-ish, plus or minus a minute, so it was in that fourth bar right in there. And amazingly and luckily, it dropped really, really quickly. I sometimes don't like showing trades like this because it gives kind of that sleazy perspective sometimes. Those of you that know me know I try and tell it like it is. I show you the good with the bad. It's a great profession, trading and day trading and long-term investing. But you have to learn it, and I don't like the sleazy advertising that makes it look like it's so simple all the time. You have to work for it, and it's like anything else. When you get good at it, it's fun. And this trade happened to last 10 minutes, and it was a 3 risk unit trade, so it makes half the week's salary in 10 minutes. You don't always get that. I actually had a different one picked out for the trade of the week video, and I actually pulled some pictures of the charts for it to start doing it. I originally had ABBV, which was a long on Thursday, which is great. I had AVGO, which was a long on Wednesday, which was great. A lot of good educational charts, and quite honestly, I kind of went with this one because I don't show ones like this that often where it was just kind of a perfect entry, a lucky drop, and I initially was taking halves and I was trailing it, and it dropped so quickly through here that it never was an issue to trail it. It just kept dropping. At some point down here, I just switched and said, okay, taking the whole thing. This was a Friday, so I like to be done by policy on Friday by 10:30 at the latest. I mean, done, charts done, room locked up. out the door by 10:30 or 11:30 at the latest. So I was more interested in taking this. And I also happen to have Nvidia short during this time. Nvidia made a full R profit as well. So, and then in all fairness, I had a third trade that stopped, that kind of bounced out Nvidia, and then I had LVS, which made a little bit of money, and I killed it because I wanted to close up. And LVS, if you look at the chart, had a huge drop. It would have made an entire week's salary if I would have let it go. Even Amat, as you can see, ended up making another 50% more profit than what I had, maybe almost double. But I would have had to live through this retracement and sit here all day. And I do that on some days, but on a Friday, I just wanted to be gone. And plus, you don't know what's going to drop. This could have been the low of the day. So I looked at this as the low right in the 10 o'clock reversal time and ended up taking the target was right in there at 50.43. It ended up being one target, a 3R trade. And a little better view of this on the 1 minute chart. You can see just a beautiful entry. Again, I was a little worried about this one because the gap down, it makes you uncertain how much of that gap may retrace. But it ended up being just a beautiful chart. There's the open again, and there's where the entry was. You can see it better on the 1 minute chart. It was actually just under 51.25, and that was a great entry. Ended up using a snug stop at the high of the day because at that point I figured it was heading lower. And then of course the luck comes in. You don't know what's going to happen. It has a parabolic drop, and I managed to take the whole thing. So fun trade. They're not all like that, but there's a lot of good trades out there. Bottom line, DTS Trading Room, if you want to see trades like this, where we focus on the morning specifically as much as possible, trying to find the best of the best by being well prepared for the day. It is not a fast-paced room for the most part. It is something that we talk about things, take our time, and most of the positions I like to play out over a half day or a full day. This AMAT was an exception. Until next time, this is Paul for DTS. Good trading, everybody.